We are going deep in these rankings. I mean, we also have news we got to talk about. We got Keenan Allen probably missing. Bateman's not at practice. I mean, I do have a couple interesting notes with the New England Patriots Detroit Lions game. But before we get to anything, make sure you go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Y'all know we're live streaming literally every single day until the end of the season. So make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you can come out to our live streams, ask us any questions you may have. And if you're not able to make it out to the stream, you can always drop those questions down below. That should be it. This video is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, where you can check out all these cool player props. And if you want to go check those out, of course, sign up with promo code FLOCK and they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $200. Available in damn near every state. Go to the link in the comment section, the link in the description. Deposit $10. You'll automatically have $20 in your account. But that should be it. Let's dive into this. Let's go Kupp, Jefferson, 1 and 2. Kupp, brutal matchup against Dallas. Who the hell cares? It's Cooper Kupp. Jefferson going up against Chicago. I mean, probably Minnesota can run all over them, but who the hell cares? It's Justin Jefferson. At 3 in this same tier, we are going to have Jamar Chase, though. I mean, with Jamar Chase, I want to be heavily betting on the Cincinnati Bengals this week, specifically in the passing game, where we have seen that, hell, last time Joe Burrow started against the Baltimore Ravens, he had over 500 passing yards. I mean, 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago at this point, you had Tua Tagovailoa with 6 passing touchdowns against this Baltimore Ravens secondary. Now, of course, I mean, maybe it looks a little bit bold to take the Jamar Chase in the first tier, but what I would actually do is I would head over to Underdog Fantasy, and I will give you a little sneak peek to our player props of the week. They have Jamar Chase, 71.5 yards. I'd probably take that over if I'm going to be honest with you. Of course, find the link in the description. Promo code FLOCK. They'll match that first deposit. But let's drop it down to our next tier. Let's go Stephon Diggs at 4. Devontae Adams at 5. Stephon Diggs and the Buffalo Bills are favored by 14 points. Usually in that kind of game environment, you would assume, oh, okay, well, maybe this offense stops throwing the ball in the second half. Maybe they look to run the ball a little bit more. Nope, Buffalo doesn't matter. If they're winning 40-0, they're going to go through. They're still going to have Josh Allen drop back with aggression in the fourth quarter. So I think it's safe to aggressively rank Stephon Diggs, even if for a traditional team, maybe in the second half, it wouldn't be the game environment that you want. And then with Devontae Adams at 5, Devontae Adams and the Las Vegas Raiders are probably going to be playing catch up against Kansas City Chiefs. Right now, the Chiefs are favored by about 7.5 points in this contest, but I do need to make sure I'm at least fair here and mention that Hunter Renfrow is probably going to be back. You may have these additional pass catchers in Las Vegas, not allowing Devontae Adams to get to 12 targets. But going over to our next tier, we're going to be led off with Deebo Samuel at 6. Don't love this matchup going up against Carolina. I think it's probably going to be a very low-scoring contest in general, but Deebo's been an extremely high floor player. He's been a high ceiling guy as well. Didn't love him coming into the season because we had Trey Lance. I thought Trey Lance was going to be checking the ball down as often as what we had with Jimmy G. But when you got Jimmy G in, there's no concern at all with Deebo Samuel. Still don't think he's the top 3 wide receiver as he was a year ago, especially not in this matchup against Carolina, but he's a safe option. Next guy is going to be Tyreek Hill at 7. With Tyreek Hill going up against the Jets, it is a really nice matchup. And I know Teddy Bridgewater just zeroed in all sights on Tyreek Hill this past week. I don't know if that happens again. I think Teddy B does go through his progressions and hopefully starts throwing the ball to Jalen Waddle a little bit more, but still should be a fine matchup. And Tyreek has been drawing consistent double-digit games. Now our next guy is going to be Mike Evans at 8. With Mike Evans going up against the Atlanta Falcons, coming off a monstrous performance with multiple touchdowns, over 100 receiving yards. They were playing catch up against the Kansas City Chiefs, but very similar, I think, to the Buffalo Bills. This Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, you don't have to worry. If they're up by multiple touchdowns in the fourth quarter, even against a team where Marcus Mariota only completed 7 passes last week, they're still going to be throwing the ball here. I think we can go through. Start Mike Evans with confidence. Next guy, A.J. Brown going up against Arizona. I understand with A.J. Brown, he had a down week this past week in what was a very tough matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but A.J. Brown's down week still had almost 100 receiving yards. I'm not worried at all. I think this Philadelphia Eagles offense is one of the best offenses in the NFL. You start A.J. Brown with confidence. Last guy in this year is going to be T. Higgins. As we mentioned with T. Higgins in the Cincinnati Bengals offense, I am going to be playing this aggressively against this Baltimore Ravens secondary. I think T. Higgins and both Jamar Chase could be top 5 wide receivers this week. Now, going down to our next tier, we're going to have Jalen Waddle at 11. Now, I know we are already going to have a lot of people running to the comment section going, Mason, this is way too high with Jalen Waddle. Did you not see what he did with Teddy Bridgewater last week? If you think that this is way too high with Jalen Waddle, right now his over-under with receiving yards on Underdog is like 72.5. By all means, go take the under. He's pretty much at the same mark as Jamar Chase on Underdog this week. But I think with Jalen Waddle, you will have Teddy Bridgewater going through his progressions. And now that he has the full week to prepare as the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, he's not going to be the wide receiver 2, 3, 4 again, as he was with Tua Tagovailoa, but he's still going to be a low end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2 for us. Full transparency, my most drafted guy in fantasy this year, so maybe I'm a little overly optimistic, but hell, good matchup against the Jets. Now, our next guy is going to be CeeDee Lamb going up against the Rams. We've talked about this. Ramsey is tough on paper. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, Ramsey's not going to cover him the entire game. Yada, yada, yada. Doesn't matter. On paper, it should be a tough matchup against the Rams, but it doesn't matter. You look at Deebo Samuel running over Ramsey a week ago. We look at Drake London back in week 2. I mean, pretty damn good. Stephon Diggs week 1, Hollywood Brown week 3. Everybody's performing against the Los Angeles Rams. I'm hoping this is a shootout game, but these are 2 pretty good defenses. I do want to look at the kind of target volume we're getting with Michael Gallup his second week back in Dallas. Now, our next guy, Chris Godwin at 13. I think Godwin and Evans are probably a lot closer than people assume they would be. I mean, if you go look at some casual fantasy football sites, they're going to have Chris Godwin ranked as a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide. I don't get it. I don't know why. The man had 10 targets last week. That's including missing a drive. You're good to go with Chris Godwin. He's a must-start guy every single week. And now, Tom Brady doesn't have any of these off-the-field distractions. He can go through and focus on football. Now, our next guy, Mike Williams. We have to go through. We have to dramatically move Mike Williams up these rankings. Please, Keenan Allen, come back soon. I don't want to rank Mike Williams this high. I mean, I did not draft Mike Williams that often at all this year because people are drafting him as literally a top 12 wide receiver with a healthy Keenan Allen. I was like, okay, this is a little aggressive. Tough matchup going up against the Cleveland Browns. I mean, it should be a close contest according to Las Vegas. It's about a field goal game. But if you have no Keenan Allen, Mike Williams is just a must-start guy here. But please, Keenan Allen, come back soon. Now, our next tier is going to be led off with Christian Kirk at 15. With Christian Kirk, I know he had a down week this past week. He saw the target volume. It was a brutal matchup going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he'd be a lot more excited about this matchup that he has going up against Houston. And now our next guy, Chris Olave, locked and loaded as that high-end wide receiver 2 now. I mean, looking at Chris Olave here, this is an option. Then we can say, if you have no Michael Thomas, he's a must-start guy. Now, dream scenario for Olave is no Michael Thomas and Jameis Winston plays. But I'll settle for no Michael Thomas and Andy Dalton. I mean, he looked every part of that stud rookie wide receiver last week in London. And now going over to our next guy, we are going to have Hollywood Brown at 17. With Hollywood, y'all know this is the lowest that we've ranked him in quite some time. Literally, he's averaged over 11 targets through the first month here. It's just a brutal matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles. Arguably, the Philadelphia Eagles at this point have one of the best defenses in the entire NFL. I think Arizona probably struggles, especially before they get DeAndre Hopkins back in this offense. You have Rondale Moore back in Arizona. You have Trey McBride starting to get involved. So all of a sudden, there are more weapons here and an offense that I think will struggle given the matchup. But now going down to our next tier, we're going to have Terry McLaurin at 18. Now you're going to have to monitor Curtis Samuel. Is going to be right after as well. We're going to go Terry McLaurin 18, Curtis Samuel 19. We may be moving Terry McLaurin up these rankings because looks like John Dotson out with the hamstring injury. Y'all know this is higher than we ranked Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel over the past 2 weeks now. But to be fair, over the past 2 weeks, hell, we were assuming that Carson Wentz was going to be significantly worse, which he was. And there was serious target competition with specifically Jahan Dotson, a fantastic rookie wide receiver. With John Dotson dealing with the hamstring, these guys are better plays. They also have better matchups going up against the Tennessee Titans compared to them going up previously against the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles for the past 2 weeks. But Curtis Samuel currently dealing with an illness. He didn't practice on Wednesday, didn't practice on Thursday. Obviously, we're going to have to monitor his Friday practice report. So if Curtis Samuel misses, I think you could move Terry McLaurin higher than this. Now going down to our next guy, Deontay Johnson at 20. Someone I have everywhere, someone that I am rooting for, but it is a 14-point spread. The Pittsburgh Steelers and Kenny Pickett are 14-point dogs to the Buffalo Bills here. I want to be sitting as many Pittsburgh Steelers players as I possibly can. I feel like maybe I'm ranking Deontay Johnson even too high at this point. It's just this is a player that I have been very excited about, and I have him on a lot of rosters. Now, our next guy is going to be Devonta Smith here at 21. I mean, down week this past week compared to what we had 2 weeks ago. But, of course, you can only go down from what you had 2 weeks ago. Still playing in fantastic offense. Don't hate the matchup against the Arizona Cardinals here. Will be a very interesting game. Of course, we know with the Arizona Cardinals, they want to push the pace of play, which usually does lead to higher scoring games in general. But our last wide receiver, Brandon Cooks. This is probably going to be one of our locks of the week, at least on Underdog. We're on Underdog right now. They have him at 67.5 receiving yards as his over-under. I'm definitely going under 6.5 receiving yards on Brandon Cooks against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't like the matchup. This Jacksonville Jaguars team has shut down pretty much every wide receiver they've gone up against except A.J. Brown. I don't know. I mean, they have Brandon Cooks for more receiving yards against Jacksonville than Christian Kirk going up against Houston. Maybe I'm just too much of a Davis Mills hater here. I still think this is one of the worst offenses in the NFL. But to be hesitant to start Brandon Cooks as anything other than a low-end wide receiver 2, I'd be willing to take that under on Underdog. Of course, link in the description, link in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match. And going over to our next tier, we're going to have Drake London at 23. 7 completions for Marcus Mariota last week. 7 completions. Now, right now, Kyle Pitts is dealing with a hamstring injury. If Kyle Pitts does not play, Drake London will go to the tier above. Drake London should see more targets, but this offense will have no shot against Tampa. No shot at all if they have no Cordell Patterson, no Kyle Pitts. So they're running out there with the rookie wide receiver and Tyler Algier. Going to be a horrendous offense. Drake London is a great talent, and there's very limited target competition elsewhere. Very similar to what you have with the Brandon Cooks situation in Houston. Now, our next guy, Amari Cooper at 24. With Amari Cooper playing in a run-first offense that I know people have gotten mad at us for ranking him too low over the past 2 weeks. Hell, I mean, I think that we probably were proven right this past week, which Jacoby Brissett naturally going to be a quarterback that does cap the overall ceiling in this offense. I would be very excited about Amari Cooper when we get Deshaun Watson back in the last 6 weeks of the year. But for now, going up against Los Angeles, it's kind of whatever. And then our last guy in this year, DK Metcalf, 25. Metcalf has actually been a little bit worse than Tyler Lockett, who we'll talk about in a second. But if we are going to be fair, I think DK Metcalf's a better wide receiver than Lockett going forward. Now our next guy is going to be Garrett Wilson. With Garrett Wilson, was on a buy low video for us earlier this season. I mean, y'all know I really like the player. We've been saying to bench him over the past few weeks, though, and the reason for this is if we looked at the routes run, you looked at the snaps compared to what we had with Elijah Moore and Corey Davis in the same offense, Garrett Wilson wasn't being used as an every down player, but this past week that changed. This past week, Garrett Wilson ran almost as many routes as Elijah Moore. So even though Garrett Wilson had the down week, even though he has the tough matchup going up against Miami, if anything, I'm more excited about Garrett Wilson. And now our next guy, DJ Moore going up against the 49ers. Horrible matchup, and I tweeted out a couple days ago at this point, all my DJ Moore drafters, please go to Twitter. I am collecting a list of names. We are filing a class action lawsuit against Baker Mayfield for everybody who drafted DJ Moore. This is inexcusable, the quarterback play that we are getting. Please find your way out of this situation, DJ. Please pull an Odell and get traded somewhere. Now, our next wide receiver, Gabriel Davis, 28. Wasn't a big Gabe Davis fan coming into the season because you had to draft him at the 3-4 turn in underdog drafts. I was like, okay, give me Jalen Waddle instead. But still, he's playing in an offense that's dropping 40 points every week. He's pretty much just been a wind sprinter over the past 2 weeks, running a ridiculous amount of routes, not getting targeted at all. Maybe this changes soon. I don't want to be all out on Gabriel Davis, but if you think that the ankle injury is bothering him, maybe that we just wait to start him until we actually see him give us a productive week. But speaking of ankle injuries, we're going to go right over to Allen Lazard at 29. With Lazard, London game, a lot of uncertainty, playing the Giants, playing a team that's going to have a hobbled Daniel Jones as quarterback, where I think we can assume that you just have the Packers running the ball over and over and over again, and Romeo Doubs right next to Allen Lazard as co-wide receiver ones in Green Bay. I am very hesitant to be aggressive with either one of these players because I think in a best ball format, sure, they're going to be great. They're each going to have their own individual weeks. We know that Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, but if we are looking at the fact that neither one of them profiled to be a stud alpha wide receiver one, looking at the fact that they were going to get heavily involved 2 running back sets. I mean, I believe right now the Green Bay Packers are at the top of the NFL in current 2 running back sets, which would make sense if they have A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Be a little bit hesitant. I understand why you would want to be very excited about these guys. Then our next guy, we're going to have Tyler Lockett, 31. With Lockett, he's been great. He has been great. I drafted him a lot as a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 in best ball because I think with Tyler Lockett, he profiles to be someone that gives you an occasional spike week. He's been commanding about 8-9 targets a game. I think that Geno Smith in this entire offense takes a dramatic step back. Dropped 45 points last week. I get it. I mean, 48 points, but still, they're going up against the Saints now. They are not favored in this game. It's not going to be a Detroit Lions shootout. Now, our last wide receiver in this year is Bateman going up against Cincinnati. Debated ranking Bateman because Bateman has been missing practice. He plays Sunday night as well, so I would definitely look for a different option than Rashad Bateman. Unless Bateman's ruled good to go on Friday, which I'm not expecting that to be the case. I'm expecting this to be a game time type situation, and I don't want you to be holding out your hope for Rashad Bateman. Now, our next year is going to be led off with Robert Woods at 33. I think it's the first time this year Robert Woods has made one of these videos for us. Robert Woods, a lot more appealing with the Treylon Burks injury. The matchup's pretty good against Washington as well. Like, to be honest with you, I think if you wanted to move Robert Woods ahead of this, you could easily do that. Now, our next wide receiver, Brandon Ayuk, going up against Carolina. Don't love the matchup. Don't love Jimmy G for Brandon Ayuk in particular. I'd have rather had Trey Lance for Ayuk, but it is what it is. Next guy, Jacoby Myers, 35. I think Jacoby Myers is going to play, but the issue is, I think this New England Patriots offense is going to be very bad with a third-string quarterback. Even if they're going up against a horrendous Detroit Lions defense, I think they do look to run the ball consistently. And now, speaking of horrendous offenses, Justin Fields kind of looks like a third-string quarterback at this point. We are going to have Darnell Mooney, 36. I need to give a round of applause. Justin Fields completed 10 passes. Congrats, Justin Fields. Believe the first time doing that this season. But, I mean, Darnell Mooney owners shouldn't be excited. Now, at the very end of this, I mean, not in the top 36, but hanging out right outside. Very hard for me to rank these guys right now. I will try to give you all an update on Saturday. But at the time of this recording, we don't know the availability of DJ Chark. We aren't certain with the availability of Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's a lot of uncertainty with the Detroit Lions and what wide receivers are going to be at the very top end of this depth chart for this Sunday. Maybe you make the argument Josh Reynolds needs to be here. DJ Chark needs to be here. Yes, you can very easily make that argument. Keep in mind, we have a couple days to figure this out. So instead of having to rank them right now, I will give you this update on the weekend. But of course, if you want to get that update, if you want to come out to any of our live streams, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscribe button. While you're down there, make sure you drop a like on this video. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comment section. Thank you again. I appreciate you. Hope we get to see you in the live stream tonight. And if not, I do hope that you have a great day.